Okay, Okosav Sheres Yaakov, wherever this is, Kasher Vos Doma Bigmara, when there's a generic Gemara, in other words, without attribution. Kusha Zachazeh, the questions after question, boom, boom, boom. B'yestir Mikusha Lakusha is a contradiction from the questions. In other words, questions are don't reconcile with each other. There says Rosh Hashivas Lamar Shtei Makshim Him. So some Rosh Hashivas say there are two people asking the questions. Obviously, because they're not consistent questions. Gama Rashba Islay Sfarzu, Gam Tais Baba Kama Samar Dal. They all hold this way. But the Alichos Olam, from the other Klallim books, does not agree with this statement. This is what he says. The Shita here means not the opinion, but the derech of the Gemara. If the questioner is always one questioner. In other words, if you see inconsistency in the questions, that's an issue, but it doesn't mean there are two questioners. You'll see Taisus always tries to analyze the words of the person asking the question. In other words, I guess they're trying to reconcile the questions. There's a makshon echad. I'm saying there's a one makshon and not two makshon. Zeh pina mifursemes bagmar. This is a basic cornerstone, famous cornerstone in the Gemara. Sometimes they say no. The person asking the second question was the author of this conversation, not the initial questioner. That is if we up against the wall. Masik, and the Alichos concludes. He's about to say it's so funny. Therefore, if it seems that if the person who is learning this Gemara B'iyun has a very strong question, or he can't reconcile the two questioners. If he says there are two different questions, he's not an apikoros. Yes. Okay, so I didn't know you could become an apikoros and saying you could become an apikoros and saying there are two questions instead of one. Alichos Olam is very holds it as a very because since he holds a pinam before semes, so therefore it's a basic construct that it's always one makshon and not two makshon. Okay. The Gemara never doesn't necessarily undertake to ask all the questions you can ask. Sometimes ask lots of questions, sometimes a lot of questions. And the reason is that when there is some rejection of the first question, that was some easy way of rejecting it. So then it's going to ask more questions. And therefore, you find occasionally that the Gemara is going to ask on an Amora, I forgot Nishar B'Tuvta, even though they already refuted him. Now, the Gemara sometimes says Tuvta the blank Tuvta, sometimes says Tuvta the blank, just Tuvta. So that I believe the principle is, although he doesn't say it here explicitly, probably is waiting to where it says Tufta later on in the text, but I believe the principle is, it says Tufta the blank Tufta, that's it. He's finished. It says Tufta the blank, or just Tufta, so then it's possible to continue the conversation, not necessarily at an end. And that's what it says here, that sometimes we'll get to a Tufta, and then we'll ask another question. Then we already repudiate this person. Well, there's another Tufta. We seek another one, even though we don't seem to need it. Perish Rashi, Nafkamina, why are we seeking another Tufta? That the first question, the first repudiation is undermine. We have the second one. So one question is very strong. They're not going to ask so many questions which are unnecessary. So, mind you, even a tufta is not necessarily a strong question. But if it's a really strong question, then we're not going to ask more questions.
Okay. Where'd you go?
Look for above. It's either here or we in Hagos Hagriv.
Okay.
The above is part Omer Lamala. So I guess he's about to say what he said before. Let's see. Yeah, I get, it sounds like he's sending over again. But maybe it's right after the person asks the question, after the person resolves the question, Gemara goes on to a different question. But then and it answers it with the same answer. I don't think we have this. So you, well, exactly. It would seem that it's difficult. Didn't already the Maksha know that there was an answer to the question. The question we gave to the answer we gave to the previous question. The as an example, that Nami. So we ask a different question. The reason as the question is that maybe there's a better. We're not so happy with the first answer. Yeah, it's true. The first answer will cover our bases, but we're not enthralled with it, and therefore we ask a question from a different angle, and maybe they'll come up with a different answer. Taisa Sham, dear Master Ella, the Lonamar Dilma Isla Tamachrina. We don't say maybe has another reason or another explanation. Only when the first explanation is not a great one. But if it's a great one, then the lake of meat for challah midday lo shach memrachi. We're going to ask any questions, then they're not going to ask another question just for the sake of asking a question.
Okay.
Because of Sheris is Yaakov Chushios Od Shloshit Sadim Ika.
Nice.
I guess the three other types of questions. Echad Ein Omrim V'Od. I guess the three principles of questions. Av Ein Omrim V'Od El Shakush Shneim Ein Rishon. The Gemara doesn't use V'Od unless the second question is similar to is of the same genre as the first question. Habei Tzarich Lachkor Im Hashtei Kushis Nifrodos. So the second question is asked not as a completely separate premise, but in order to fortify the first question. And furthermore, this is an important principle. If there's a second question which begins with a va'od, so that means that there actually is it's a stronger question than the first question. The whole machi nuchali lashlosa kushos will derech hanochli. I feel loti akusha shnei b'loshin ba'oi. Anytime this I guess goes with the shita before that it's almost kfira to say there are two questioners in the same sugya. Everybody says as long as even if it doesn't say ba'oi, we're going to try and reconcile the questions and make them go with the same approach as much as we possibly can. Okay. Kasser Rashba Perk Ish Neichli. Ain't Shita Sagamara, Sheyachi Shamaksha, Svaras Amataretz, Lotaina Cheres, Elke Makshal Mitzad Acher. The Gemara, it's not there in the Gemara that the Makshal will come and reject the answer given by the Tartzon, unless he has another premise, right? In other words, if he just doesn't like it, it's not enough to reject it. Interesting perspective. In other words, I like what you said, but if I can't reject it, then I have to, I'm stuck. I can't just say, oh, I don't like it. Give me come with another answer. But if you have another basis, another premise to ask, then you can actually do that. You can't ask from one amora another amora. That's what they say. Amru, gavra karamis. You're asking from one person to another person. But midivi Rav Makshi. You can ask from the Rebbe's words on the Talmud's words. The Rav Guvre, because the Rebbe is presumably is more powerful, more authoritative than the Talmud. What's the Gimel here?
It says Rav, not Rebbe, no?
Yeah, but I think that's what it means. It means his Rav.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We could also ask from another Amora. No, I think you're right, actually. I take that back. No, you're right. I was wrong. It's Rav is so authoritative that we ask him Rav even though he's not a Mishnah, even though he's another Amora. Normally, we won't ask from one Amora another Amora. But we will ask from Rav on another Amora. Because Rav is like the head Amora, right? Okay. And therefore, it's expected that everybody should take him into account. If you don't take him into account, then there's something wrong, and you have to explain yourself to us. Okay, and that's what it says here. How do I know I was wrong? You were right, because it says we also ask from other Amoraim where we know that the halacha is like those other Amoraim. So if from Rav we ask by default. Okay. But from other Amoraim, we only ask them on from Amora A and Amora B, if we know that a halacha is like Amora A. Okay.
Chasav
Ramban, Rebbe Matzia, Daf Samech Tes, May Mashkas about Amar Rabbi Ploni, Shumtana Echad Lo Parchina Minei Meisve. In other words, I think we had something like this before. A Tana is only authoritative as a Tana if it says Tanya or Tanan.
Right.
Or even Tana. But if it says Amar Rabbi so-and-so, you can find many times Amar Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia was a transition personality. He had aspects of a Tana and aspects of an Amora. So you find Rabbi Chia, and even though Rabbi Chia was greater than Rav, right? So he was his uncle and his Rebbe. Nevertheless, you can't ask a question from it. Okay, so because it's not stated as a brisa. If it's stated as a brisa, the same person, you can ask a question from it.
Okay.
Because Rabbi Ploni Mishum Tana Echad, in the name of one Tana, Lo Parchidim and Mesa. Abagab B'Shem Tana and Amra, even though it's stated in the name of Tana, came the Ikar Hu Memra, because it's primarily a statement of Amoraim. Now you find that a lot in the Yerushalmi. That's why the Bavli. In the Yerushalmi is far often you find a Tanoim Amar so and so.
Right.
Okay. Kasav Rashba Shas Chuba Simresh Kav Reitzai Ches Amash Matzira B'Shabagmara Shagmar Bibli Bavli. Sorry about that. Shagmara Bavli Shina Teretz Mashatis Yerushalmi. So very often the Bavli Yerushalmi asks the same questions, and the Bavli does not give the answer to the Yerushalmi, and it flies in the face of the assumption on which we predicate our system that the Bavli had access to the Yerushalmi. Why they give me a different answer in the Yerushalmi than the Bavli, right? So I feel we're going to say the Yerakain. I'm not sure it's even our Gemara. I guess between two Bavlis.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just from the Yerushalmi to Bavli, it's also from Bavli to Bavli.
Right.
Bavli Ikadamri. So you have to look at that as an Ikadamri. And that's a very, very fundamental principle, because that means you can pass like the Yerushalmi in that case. You can say, and I think this, I've come across this many times, and I believe this is Rambam Shita. He treats the Yerushalmi, when there's a named Amora, as a bar plukta of the Bavli, meaning that if you have a name Amora, let's say you had in the Bavli Rav, and you Yerushalmi Rabbi Yochanan, we pass like Rabbi Yochanan over Rav. So therefore, we're passing like Rabbi Yochanan Yerushalmi. We can pass it like Rabbi Yochanan Yerushalmi over Rav and the Bavli.
Okay.
There's like an ikadamri. Ugdal mizu harbesh when I say the sugas mischafos, and there are many sugas where there are differences. This where things switch off from one suga to another suga. Babi kalishna achrina, and we has to be seen as if it's a lishna achrina. Kol shekain she'ira came ben Bavli Yerushalmi hadkan. So it's true when we have this distinction between Yerushalmi. Let's say what's the sign here. It just says I Tesis Menachos. Okay. Ubesof has siman. Kasav, the Rashi writes at the end of that siman. The itim hapechasuya. That's right. Because Yerushalmi is itim hapechasuya. Something Yerushalmi overturns the sugya. But I feel gears is a brisa. But I feel a mishnayos. The team says there are bei makomos. But you find very often in that Yerushalmi, and we know this, has a different, has an antithetical sugya to the Bavli. Right? It's a completely different approach. And so it turns the sugya around, and sometimes it even has different gears than the Brisa, and occasionally even the Mishnah. So these are all, says the Rashi, but they're treated like ikodamis.
Okay.
Fundamentally so.
Do we have a klal as to when we have an ikadamre just in front of us in the sugya, we have one thing and then ikadamre as to which
usually the
thing we
round
go
passes like ikadamri.
We generally go after the second
Right.
opinion. Right?
That doesn't help when it's across two sugyas. Consultation about Bakama, Yamasu Rava, Amar Hulesh, Amar Esri Abai Rava, Rabba Hule, Amale Rabba, consultation Gasin, Amale Rava. So evidently, it's the sugya there has the Taisus Dibra is Rava, even though the sugya says Rabba, because Taisus changed the girsa. Abai asked Rav, these are that the Rabba Hishibo. If we're going to say Rabba responds by Havale Lamem Lama Le Lachzav Lamar Amale Rabba. Why do you have to say that Rabba responded? Right? Came and showed me Tchil Amale Abai Le Rabba. Right? Varabba Muksha who Ameshit.
Right.
Okay, makes sense. So what's the? I'm not sure he's answering. I guess Abai asked question to Rabba and Rava responded. Rabba was the Rebbe of Abai and Rava.
Okay.
So Abai asked Rabba a question. So according to places, Abai asked Rabba a question and Rava gave the answer. Okay. Marley, what's this dollar here? That's the taste of information you can't have in the Myanmar. Marley. Oh, I see. Okay. Because you should have said right. Since it didn't say that El Shmai the Rabba Baal Garcia. Shamal Abai she should Rabba. Abai heard Rabba overheard Abai asking his Rebbe Rabba, and he jumped in and said the response. Okay, and that's what he says Amar Rabba instead of Amar Le. Kasa Taisa Baba Parakan by Cousin Dila Masu Kraven Dibe Elu. So part time the Bishama asks Lashmina. Sometimes when I ask, what do you come to us the logical Bishama? You don't pass like Bishama. Ki Ashmina time the Bishama. That's only it's telling us the lumbness of Bishama. Abishman Perush Milso the Bishama Lo Parech. That's interesting dichotomy. The lumbness of Beishamai we don't dwell on because we don't pass like Beishamai. The pshat in Beishamai, we also want to know the pshat in Beishamai. Wherever he said it deserves understanding. So therefore, if somebody comes and explains Beishamai, that's not a problem. It's only if they come and try and analyze Beishamai, they will say, what are you doing? We don't pass like it. Okay, I guess it's a good place to stop and next take up Tuesday next time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's interesting stuff. Okay, have a great week.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.